Oh man, the internet exploded overnight because of the situation with the Duskbloods. The first network test did not go well. The first session of the network test did not go well. That was a total flop. People could not get in, myself included. But the second session that started at 7 p.m. PT, that actually went really well. I was able to get a number of games in. So in this video, I'm going to break down the anger that we see from people after maybe some of them played it, people didn't play it, people watched other people play, even though you're not supposed to stream it. People are giving their impressions. There is a lot of talk surrounding this game. The switch to exclusivity, the PvP problem, will it come over to other platforms when it comes to the IP rights, my own impressions, long-term viability. So I wanted to kind of break it down in one big video going over everything. But yes, gamers are angry and salty about the Duskbloods in various different types of ways. And we're going to break down all of that and provide some nice examples too, in addition to just going over the Duskbloods, because this is one of the most intriguing games of the year. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Okay, let's start off with the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusivity problem. So this is something that I see on Twitter and I see online, people saying, well, if it wasn't a Switch 2 exclusive, then I'd try it out, or why is it a Switch 2 exclusive? And I'm here to let you guys know what happened, okay? But let's just first start off with what people are saying. Over on Twitter, I've seen comments like this. This was someone who was actually quoting somebody else saying it, but the comments kind of go like, the Duskbloods is a $700 game when you have to buy a Switch 2, the game, the online, and a Pro controller. So he goes on to say that's the craziest stretch, that he's never counted the cost of a console when buying a game, because I buy a console to play more than one game. And I think I have to agree. I think that if you're going to buy a system for a game that you like, you look into other games. And I'm pretty sure if you're a gamer, there are other games that you would want to play, especially Nintendo, because they have exclusives. Now, there might not be anything, but the Switch 2 has third-party games, it has first-party games, so I would say that that's kind of a stretch, just like we don't ever do that when it comes to any of the exclusives that are on PC, or exclusives that are on Xbox, or on PlayStation. You buy it for what you want to buy it for, and if you start doing stuff like that, you might as well just start including, like, your rent, the electricity bill, the TV cost, the monitor. Like, you need a TV to play like PlayStation or Xbox. Do you add that into the cost? Of course not. So I do feel that it's a bit of a stretch, actually kind of like a crazy stretch with that, but that's something that people are saying. That's something that's out there. There was also another tweet by Mr. E. Bellumat, and he says, no one is complaining about Wolverine being exclusive. Everyone who doesn't have a Switch 2 is complaining about Duskbloods being exclusive. That makes me think, well, there's two different scenarios with this, right? Like, I understand where he's coming from. Obviously, Insomniac, that is a studio that's owned by Sony. Sony owns and funds that studio, so Wolverine is part of that. They bought the license from Marvel to get that and to get those type of games. From Software, obviously not owned by Nintendo, but there is a similarity here. There was a point where Insomniac was not owned by Sony, yet they still got exclusives from Insomniac. So there is that. And with From Software, with what's going on here, this game was pitched to Nintendo. It was pitched to them, and Nintendo liked the idea and helped them develop the game. They were the right partner, according to Miyazaki. So if you want to know why that the Duskbloods is exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2, because Nintendo was the right partner and very receptive to the idea, help them develop certain gameplay mechanics and systems, tutorials, different things. So they actually took an active part in getting something like this going. The development of this game stretches back to 2021 on the original Nintendo Switch 1, but when they heard about the Switch 2, they were very happy to bring it over to that system. So it almost seems like this is a Bayonetta situation. It's not owned by Nintendo, but they own the rights and they publish the game when it comes to Bayonetta 2, Bayonetta 3, and Bayonetta Origins. And I think a similar thing is happening here with this one. Now, From Software still owns the IP, they still have control of that. So if there is the Duskbloods 2 and they don't want to involve Nintendo in it, I think they're free to do that. But I think with the Duskbloods 1, this game, I think it's going to pretty much stay locked in on Nintendo platforms going forward in the future. And it could be updated and updated. They might not even make a sequel to this. They could just keep updating it as kind of like a live service or continuing online game. So I think that's what's happening there. So there is some truth into what Matt is saying, but at the same time, it's a little bit different. But that's the reason why it's exclusive. So this game probably wouldn't exist if Nintendo didn't step in to help make it. They're the ones it was pitched to, they helped make it. So that's really what happened. There's not really anything nefarious when it comes to that. Now let's talk about another issue, the PvP problem. And this is something that a lot of people talk about, that they don't like from software PvP because of the structure, because of how it works, and that's completely fair. You don't have to like from software PvP. I have not been a huge fan of From Software PvP. I've not been a huge fan of From Software's games after a certain point. I think that they're exciting to play the game initially, and I always put 10, 15, 20, 30 hours into From Software games, and then I kind of just fall off. I beat my head against the wall against a certain boss, or other games come out, like other big RPGs come out that I'm more excited about, and then I just drop the games. I think that with this game, for people like me, at least if you fall into that category, there's no real commitment to this, although there is a story and there are other things that you can do, and there's co-op and there's stuff. Like this game, there's no commitment like an Elden Ring with a massive open world and a bunch of stuff to collect and all that. There's no commitment like that. It's just a drop in, fight, go through phases, and then you're out. There's no real consequence, at least right now at this point, from what I can understand. You can just play it like a multiplayer big expanded version of Bloodborne or something like that. So to me, it's a bit more appealing than a regular From Software game. Now, I understand that's not going to be the case for everyone. And Mr. is it Shirako on Twitter, he's a long-time YouTuber, said From Software overestimates how many players like PvP. And I quote tweeted that and said, well, I don't think so. Miyazaki simply had an idea for a multiplayer game and Nintendo funded it. That's all. And I think that's really what it is. They had a really cool idea that they wanted to do to kind of branch out a little bit for a multiplayer game, and they did that. They're not stopping single player. They've actually even stated that the next Elden Ring or the next big Sekiro or the next big Bloodborne or whatever they're going to do going forward in the future, right? The next big single player experience is coming. Elden Ring was about 4 years ago, not at this point, and I think that they're going to go even bigger and better for their next game. So that's going to take quite some time, considering they did DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree and all that. So you're not going to get that game within like a 3 to 4 year period. You're going to get other games that they've been working on in between, because Elden Ring has been feeding families, has been doing really, really good. It sold like what, 20, 30 million copies or something like that. So it's been doing really good. Plus all the DLC, plus they have the Switch 2 version coming out, which by the way is #1 on the eShop right now. So people are picking up Elden Ring. So From Software is making a big splash to Nintendo gamers right now. So that's really what it is. It's not like they're abandoning single player. They just made a game that they wanted to make. Nintendo saw it and said, hey, you know, let's get Elden Ring on here. Let's get the Duskbloods. We got a 1-2 punch of multiplayer focused, PvE, PvP focused, and we've got the single player game that everybody knows and loves. We can have the best of both. We can have our cake and eat it too. And that's exactly what they're doing here with the Duskbloods and Elden Ring. Now, here's the thing though. Will it come over to other platforms? Now, I kind of touched on this a little bit, and I think that if there is the Duskbloods 2, if From Software wants to proceed and put that on other platforms without Nintendo's funding, I think that they can do that. Now, the original game, the Duskbloods, this game, I don't think it goes anywhere else unless Nintendo wants it to. And I don't think they're going to want it to go anywhere else, once again. So I don't think the Duskbloods, this particular game, is going to be on other platforms. I see some people saying, oh, well, I'll wait for the PC version or the PlayStation 5 version or Xbox version. I don't think there's going to be another version of the game on other platforms. I do think that if there is a sequel or something else, or if there is a falling out of the partnership, From Software can take the IP and make a new one and put that out. And I think that that is absolutely possible. If something happens, if there is an issue, or From Software just wants to make the IP more globally known or on more platforms, then yeah, they might just make a new Duskbloods and get somebody else to fund it or something like that. But I think that with this game itself, just the first one, I think it's going to stay a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, and I don't see that changing. Could be wrong, but based off of what Nintendo has said, based off of what Miyazaki has said, they are advertising this as an exclusive, and I think it's going to stay that way based off of the interviews. Okay, let's get into my impressions, because I played about an hour plus on stream. I didn't show it because you're not allowed to, even though tons of people were streaming it. And I played about another hour or so portable mode, so I can give you guys my opinion on docked, because I played it on my 27-inch monitor that I have here. Or is it a 24-inch monitor? I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway, I have an OLED nice MSI monitor that's really nice and sleek, and I played it on there. And I also played it portable mode. So let me get into my impressions just first of the game, and then I can get into other things. I think that this game is crazy. There are mechanics on mechanics. There are systems on systems. There is depth on depth. There are attacks on attacks. There are specials on specials. Everything in this game has your mind moving at 150%. This game has so many different things that are intertwined to it. The characters, despite being able to switch between them, when it comes to the inputs, you're not going to have to remember complex button strings or combos. They do have different upgrades and different abilities and powers, but I like what they're doing here. Like I stated before, there's no commitment to this. I don't have to sit here and go through this massive map and beat all these bosses and have to struggle and get beat down and lose my souls a million times. The grind of what a typical From Software game is not here. And I like that. Now, I know some people don't like that, and I understand. But me, I don't like that. I like the mechanics and systems of how From Software games can work, some of the combat and all that. I think that works well. I played and beat Demon Souls. I've played day one. When it comes to Bloodborne, I bought Elden Ring day one, and I always play these games for a bit, then drop them because of that. There's no commitment here, so I like that. I can just play, and if I'm trash, I'm trash. Like, it is what it is. I'll go through some phases. I can make my alliances. I cannot. But if you look at the mechanics of the game, the attacks, they have a tutorial. They have everything. They kind of teach you how to play the game. But the attacks and the specials and all that, it's cool. The basic gist of it is that it's kind of like a PvPvE battle royale situation co-op game thingy. I know that sounds crazy, but they drop you into this map. You have to essentially power up. It's an RPG. You level up. It also has some rogue elements to it. You can collect powers and upgrades. So you go across, you fight people, you get stronger, you level up, you can accept co-op requests, you can fight bosses with other people. But then there's this strange kind of like social experiment aspect of it. In the middle of a fight, someone can propose to say, hey, wait a minute, stop fighting me. Let's team up. And then you can team up until the final round. Then at the very end, if you make it past each phase, because you have to collect these things called virtue as you beat enemies and as you find different flames and just different stuff, you get more virtue points. And whoever has the least amount of virtue points gets cold by the dusk. And then the others get to move on. At the very end of the phase, you have a battle royale with all your powered up characters. So it's almost kind of like Smash Run or City Trail a little bit from Kirby Air Riders. There's a lot of different aspects. And I know it sounds crazy, guys. I know it sounds like it makes no sense. But when you start playing and you start learning the mechanics and kind of just start enjoying the game for what they're trying to do, it makes a lot of sense and it's a lot of fun. Also want to add in, unfortunately, I made it to the final round multiple times, but I never won any of the games. I got second place a couple of times, but I kept on getting clapped by like a dinosaur biting me and throwing me off the stage, or I got zorked a couple times, getting like ran right into, like steamrolled. But if I pick my lady with the chakrams, if I pick her, I think I'll be able to win more matches. I think I was using Albert most of the time. I liked her better. So I am going to play more, and I am going to focus on winning some of the next gameplay sessions that I take part in. But from what I've played, yeah, it is a From Software game with no strings attached, to where you can just kind of play freely. You can be bad if you want to be bad. You can just end up avoiding other players and fighting when it comes to the events in the game, and you can make it past. You don't have to engage in any fights. There is a lot of mobility and verticality in this game. The Bloodsworn, that's what they're called, the characters that you use, they're very mobile, way quicker and faster than what you see in previous From Software games. So you can quadruple jump, you can air dash, and the PvP battles end up just acting like crazy, like where you're just dashing all over the place and spamming skills, and it's just wild. It's a wild type of game that I think that I might like and I just might want to play, but I think that the real thing about this game is that if you have friends, if you can go in with duos, which they did confirm that there's going to be ranked play, there's going to be singles, there's going to be duos, and there's going to be private matches. If you want to just play with your friends in a private match, I think that's going to be a blast. If you have game chat going, oh my goodness, this is going to be a ton of fun. Game chat, private match with the community here, I think that's something that we have to do, when it comes down to that. Or if you're trying to play online and duos, if you have someone that's like a good friend of yours, and if you guys are really in tune with playing co-op games, almost kind of like a Fortnite type of situation, getting game chat and playing the Duskbloods and teaming up together to fight, oh my goodness, this could be a revolution when it comes to online, cooperative, multiplayer type of games. I really think duos are going to be super popular in the Duskbloods. I only used Albert and Trang Lan, I think that's what her name is, the lady that has like the Kung Lao hats and the long dress, and I like her. She can disappear. She has Orochimaru's serpent snake. I like what she's doing. She has these big old chakrams. She can throw them. She's mobile. I like her. I think she's cool. So that might be my main who I'm going to use, but I only used her for a game or two. I got real cocky in I think like phase 2 or phase 3 with her one time. I was up big and I decided I was just gonna go fight people, but there was rituals. There was the like rituals that come up and you have to go kind of like secure them. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna be okay. No, I got absolutely cooked. And you have to do some of the things because I was able to pick up some star fragments where if you hold the star fragments, you get extra virtue points. So I thought I was good, and I was not. So I like how dynamic the matches are. There's always something kind of going on between co-op battles, between boss fights, between trespassers, which are strong enemies, and there's really strong enemies that you're going to need help with when it comes to that. Man, it's just dynamic. And I know, like I said, it sounds crazy, but it's just dynamic. I think if From Software can keep up with the updates and keep up and making sure like the online play works well enough, which the first session didn't go so well, but the second session worked really well. I did not have really any bad latency or anything. If they can do that, this could be a long-term game on the Nintendo Switch too. So what do you think about everything that we talked about here? A lot of stuff with the Duskbloods. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this one here. Thank you so much for watching right now, and I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.